We built our organization on the back of trying to improve the lives of real estate agents and trying to set them free. Free from what? Free from having to work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. Thank God that I had a good coach or a good speaker, or I attended something that kicked me in the ass, was like, wake up, refocus, and have something bigger.
Elite entrepreneurs take all of this and realize that they're not perfect. They have to have empathy for themselves. They're going to make mistakes. It's part of the process. And then you take those mistakes and think, all right, I'm going to incorporate that into the next season of my life. How are you?
Pleasure's all mine, man. I'm honored to be on with you.
Yeah, you too, man. What's going on?
More legend.
Last time I saw you, we were at your event back in the fall at the farm, that really cool bar down on the river.
Yes, Agent to CEO.
Yeah, so for our audience that might not know, tell our audience real quick about Agent to CEO, the event, some of the stuff we covered there.
I've been a real estate agent for many decades now. I retired from the sales end of that. It's been about 9-10 years ago, and went, fully into opening up a brokerage and coaching agents. And since then, we really try to coach agents who are looking to grow their business, which is many, not all, but many. And those few that really have their all in, not just a toe in the water, we really attract the type of agents that want to treat their business like a business. So we teach them the business principles, because it's not taught in real estate school. They teach you very little. In fact, they basically teach you how to pass the test. My son's in classes now. We just felt like we needed to fill that gap, made the curriculum based upon how we built our real estate companies, many of them, to 7+ figures. So we just take those principles and share them with agents that want to come join us. And we appreciate you in the room, because you could have literally taught that class yourself with your eyes closed. And I know that that's a lot of the same content that we've learned from you in all these years. So yeah, that's really what it's about. It's not the sexy part of real estate unless you really, really kind of nerd out on the business principle stuff. We teach you how to go from just a real estate agent or salesperson to the CEO of your business.
Yeah, I love it. What I took away from Agent to CEO and what you guys have built with EXP and what you guys have built and kind of mentoring agents is you, Jay, your kind of group, you guys seem to just love recruiting and training, like recruiting people, working with them and showing them how you could put your arms around them and love on them and teach them, and then actually do it, like actually train and help people build a real business and make more money. And so am I right in kind of saying like your kind of number one thing is really team building, training, those really two things? It seems like you shared with me a text message just a couple days ago, Alex Hermosi talking about leaning in on basically doing that one thing in your business, right? Everybody seems to work hard. Everybody seems to put in lots and lots of time. And if you're an owner or a highly compensated executive, it's sort of assumed that you're going to work a lot of hours and you're going to work really hard. Are you really working hard on the one or two things that ultimately move your business the most and make you the most money? So in your world of recruiting agents, training agents, and building teams, what are the one or two things that you think you should be spending all your time on to build your team? And if you do that and you're able to actually execute that 70, 80% of your work week, how productive do you feel? Like, how amazing does it feel when you're able to work in your joy and in that swim lane where you're getting the most out of yourself?
When I started in real estate, and I don't know if you had a similar experience, because I don't know if you started out as a real estate agent or if you went right into, the investor side of it.
Investing started and then became an agent. Yeah.
Oh, got you. Okay. So I, started at Century 21 DePiro in Parma. The DePiro family is still, near dear to my heart, and friends with them to this day. But I really had no clue what the hell I was doing. I literally, I put the suit on, I suited up, tie, came in.
You had a suit on?
Oh, I had a suit every day. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And, this is 1998. So suit on in the office, sat down at my desk, because I was given a desk. That was cool. And I didn't know what the hell to do at that point. I'm like, what do I do? The long version of the answer to the question is getting really, really clear on what are the things that move the needle. Because the biggest thing that I think people struggle with are distractions right now. There's so many distractions. I don't consider this a distraction. If you're watching this podcast right now, hopefully you're looking to learn something, to grow your mind, to change your mindset, to move your needle in your business, and you're looking for an idea. I would say be careful about looking for too many ideas. You got to be really, really crystal clear on your goal. What is the goal? And then I would challenge you to ask a second question. Is that really the goal? and really digging deep and knowing, because sometimes it's not, sometimes, well, I'll just speak to real estate agents, cause I coach a lot of them, thousands of them. And a lot of times they'll come in, I want to sell 20 homes. I want to sell 50 houses next year. I want to double my business from 25 to 50. And I ask them, is that really the goal?
Is that really?
Or in the case of a team, I want to take my team from 3 to 30, from 30 to 40. Okay, cool. Is that really the goal? And then making the agents just think a few layers deeper. And it's typically not really the goal. They're really just looking for two things: enough income to sustain a lifestyle that they don't have right now. And two, leverage enough time to get time back in, because you could be making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year in income. And if you're working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, your phone's, even when you're home, your phone's going off, answering texts, then I don't know that you hit the goal, even if you might have hit part of the goal. So really digging down and finding out what does that mean? And for me, it was all about time freedom. And it didn't mean that I wasn't working. It meant I was going to work when I wanted, with who I wanted, where I wanted. If I wanted to work this year, I rented a home. I lived in Lake Tahoe for the whole month of February, snowboarded every other day. I still worked, but I worked when I wanted, and I time blocked my days to make sure that my important things got done. And then I went snowboarding. And so for me, that's the goal. I'm living my goal, and I'm blessed enough to say that, I was able to achieve that. But getting really clear on what really is the goal, because you can say, I want a team. Well, guess what? A lot of my solo agents are netting way more money than some of my teams that have 10, 15 agents on there. There's agents, there's teams that, they might top line out at $2 million in GCI and have nothing. There's literally no profit. I've seen it a million times. I've been there myself. So, I had to learn the hard way and fall a lot. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think I used to teach this exercise during my live events and some of my webinars, and we called it the ACER exercise, ACER. It stood for absolute clarity of the end result.
Oh, I love that.
ACER, absolute clarity of the end result. And so we would get so deep, which I know you guys do something similar with your agents and agents, the CEO of that, where you actually would want somebody to think like, okay, literally close your eyes and envision on an average day, like an average regular day, what does that day look like? I think Frank Kern, who's a legendary marketer years and years ago, talked a little bit about it. One of his events I was at maybe 10, 15 years ago about like the perfect average day. And perfect average because it was like, average meaning we still got to work, we still want to make money, or we're not like just sitting on the beach sipping Mai Tais. And you and I both known we've taken long vacations. Even that gets old, a month or two in Tahoe. You're like, this is great, but how many times can I snowboard? Yeah, I go with my family for 6 weeks to Florida. Like, how many times can we go on a boat, charter a boat, and go look at dolphins and manatees? And it's like, older it gets old. So let's assume it's an average day where you actually are working and you have to, work to make money or make more money. And you want to build a company, you want to build a business. So what's your average day look like? So we would have people get super clear on that. But then, okay, what does the end result of that look like? And a lot of it has to do, like you said, about income and time. How much income am I making?
Yep.
What am I using that income for? Right? Specifically, what kind of house, what kind of car, what kind of charity, what are we doing to support those kind of things? And then time, like some people like to work. I had breakfast this morning, Albie, with a guy, 84 years old. He's pretty much financially independent. He's owned the same company for 47 years. He's one of our passive investors. He still likes to go to work because he makes good money from it. It's not a lot of his mental time, his mental, physical work. He likes the people he's around, and he told me, I want to be able to tell people that I ran a company for 50 years. So he's got 3 years to go. He has a clear result, a clear thing that he's working towards. Isn't it amazing, Al, how many people that you've mentored, whether they're investors or realtors, who are like, I want to own 100 rentals, or I want to have 100 agents on my team, but they can't tell you what income does that mean? Like what's the end result of that? How much income is that deriving? What are you going to do with your time? What does that actually mean other than 100 agents or 100 investment properties or 100 doors? What does that produce for you?
Yeah.
That's really what matters, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. I literally just met a guy. I have my hit list, my sort of recruiting board here. It's got to be in front of me so I can see it every day. I got my list, my hit list. I got my red zone. They're in the red zone, like almost across into the touchdown area, right? But I just met a guy who ran a Fortune 500 company, was a C-level executive, and he got his real estate license last year. And he was about 70, 75. Actually, I think he's about 70. And he looks at me, he says, Al, I got 10 more years. I got 10 more. And he doesn't have to work anymore. He's retired. He made plenty of money. And he loves selling like that. That's what he loves real estate. And so he ended up in the wrong brokerage. He still needs to learn. But he showed up on that Zoom with a suit, a coat. My second meeting with him, coat, suit. He's just hanging around the house because this is how he's wired, right? Like, I love meeting guys or ladies that they're done. Like they did 30, maybe sometimes 40 years in whatever career. And they're like, I still got energy, and they're going at it. So it's kind of like the guy you had lunch with or breakfast with. I mean, I love meeting that because here's what that tells me. Our CEO, we were at we did a thing in Nashville for the top recruiters. They asked Jay and I, Jay Kinder is my partner, and they said, hey, would you guys host something cool in Nashville for all the, the top, there's like a contest or something for the top recruiters. And we're like, hell yeah, we love Nashville. We got some friends there. And, so we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was the CEO at the time, not anymore, but our founder, Glenn Sanford, came and spoke at it. And he said, there's a lot of you in the room right now that are making maybe more money than you've ever made. You don't maybe even need to be here. And I appreciate you being here. And you might be coasting. He goes, and I've caught myself coasting in my life, just where you don't really have a whole lot of oomph because you got enough cash where you just don't have to hustle like you've hustled. And he warned every one of us, and I'll never forget these words. He said, if you think you might be coasting right now, and you may not be feeling, any pain, I can tell you around the corner, there's pain waiting for you. You don't see it yet, but it's there. And started like, he checked me because I was coasting. I was like, I made it, whatever you want to call. And I was like, dang, what is he talking about? And I really took it to heart. And what I think that meant, at least my interpretation, was that you have to have something worthy, a worthy goal that actually means something to you. It doesn't really have to mean anything to anybody else, but and it could be anything. Maybe you want to be a scratch golfer. Well, okay, if that's a worthy goal and as long as you don't have to make money from it, because you could be a scratch golfer. You ain't going to still get on the PGA tour, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if that's a worthy goal to you, cool. But the people that I think start to deteriorate mentally, physically, emotionally, they're lacking a worthy goal to go after. And I've caught myself multiple times in that scenario. Thank God that I had a good coach or a good speaker, or I attended something that, like the things you do, and that kicked me in the ass was like, wake up. It's time to, refocus and have something bigger. And so, I have to do that daily, actually. If I catch myself coasting, I got to do something to mix it up.
Yeah, I've had a wild day. So this morning I had breakfast with this guy. He's 84 and still running his business, going to run it for at least 3 more years, wants to be in business for 50 years. He seems to have purpose, right? Yeah. Then my AV guy is he's young, he's in his 20s, and we're talking about longevity. I'm talking like I'm 48, this dude's probably 28 or whatever he is. Like, he doesn't have to worry about longevity, but we're talking about longevity. And 4 things came out of my mouth, and I hadn't really thought about it. I hadn't really like written this down or spoke on this, but I wrote them down. And the first one was community, right? The 84-year-old that I met this morning, he still gets together with his buddies twice a week to play poker. They like poker. He gets together with another one of his buddies every morning, 5 days a week, 6:15 in the morning to go for walks, to work out. So community was one. The second one, which is more of a health and wellness, is no sugar. Like you and I both know how poison sugar is. Like I can't tell you how much better I feel. Just no cream, no sugar in my morning coffee. How much more energy I have just bring.
Dude, I was going to say, you're looking fit, man. I mean,
Thanks.
You look fit the last time I seen you, but dude, you've limited sugar?
Yeah, no sugar. Like, but it's like we all know now, it's like sugar is basically poison, right? So that was number 2. The third one was like lift heavy weight, like do something to push your body beyond its probably physical limits, lift heavy weight. But the fourth one, which you just talked about, is purpose. You described a worthy goal. Another way to say that is purpose, right? Like this fella, this 84-year-old, he's like, I want to be in business for 50 years. He made that up in his own mind. That became a worthy goal, a purpose that maybe only has meaning to him and only him. But that's what's driving him to get up, continue his business, work, a worthy goal. Isn't it amazing to you? Like I say this all the time. I'll be like, how many people whine and bitch and moan and complain about the state of their life, the state of politics, the state of the economy? But if you ask them what they really want, they can't tell you.
No.
Like you probably run into this all the time. You're asking people, you're recruiting them, you're training them. It's like, well, forget all that noise of what's going on in the economy, what's going on with your sister-in-law, what's going on with politics.
Right.
What do you really want? Because the world is just sitting there for those people that want to just grab and take what they want. The world is really willing to give it to you if you're willing to identify it and then chase it. Right. So why don't more people, is it they lack a coach? Is it that maybe they didn't grow up in that maybe entrepreneurial environment? Why don't more people have more definitive goals or purpose? I don't get it.
I mean, I didn't grow up in that environment. I found it by working for some entrepreneurs at a very young age. In fact, you may, I don't know if you ever get over to Parma Heights. And Parma Heights, I can't even call it a gas station. Like when I worked there, it was it's a whole service plaza called Yorktown Service Plaza. Dear friends of mine, the Schulz that owned it, they grew it from a tiny little, golf gas station that sold smokes. That was it. That's what I did. I was in high school. I pumped gas, sold smokes, but I watched them grow this business and how they grew it through principles, through looking people in the eye and taking care of the customers and things of that nature. But I think it's fear, to answer your question. I think how they brought, look, we all have a choice. We've all grown up in different environments. Some of them were entrepreneurial, like our kids. Our kids are growing up in homes of entrepreneurs, which, that has its pluses and minuses too.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if we had, time or being pulled all over the place, airplanes here and there, or they're not. And maybe, they grew up to parents, that didn't have the financial means to get them into good schools, take them on great vacations, do these things. And so the choice, though, no matter which way you grew up, is you still have a choice where you want to take your life and where you want to go with your life. And the only thing that's holding people back is fear, or this bullshit story they're telling themselves that, oh, it's good for Josh and Al because ... fill in bullshit story, but not for me. And man, you hit on this purpose thing, right? I guess I didn't call it purpose, but it is purpose. I never really believed that was so important. We would do our business planning and everything, and every year annually we do what's the purpose, and we draw blanks like what is this? It felt like something we couldn't really. It was intangible until like a worthy goal, something that you will bounce out of bed at 4 a.m. for, right? Like what's that? And it's not always money. And like you said, it could be a lifestyle. I wanted to build a lifestyle that I didn't feel like I needed to take a vacation from. Now, having said that, I still like taking vacations, no doubt, but I'm happy here too. It also boils down to purpose as a man or a woman. What is your purpose as a woman or a man? Now, I'm not a woman, so I can't pretend to know what that might be. I can imagine maybe it's to grow a career. Maybe it's just to be an amazing mom, or maybe it's to be an amazing wife to their husband or significant other. For me as a man, is to provide, protect, and love my family. So my purpose is way different, like from a family personal thing, and still I like to have fun and do fun stuff, but that's not my purpose. From a personal level, I'm here to provide, protect, and love on my family. If I were to boil it down to just 3 basic things, it's that. So when you think about like that for your business, what is it for your business? Like, what is the purpose, And for us, we built our organization on the back of trying to improve the lives of real estate agents and trying to set them free. Free from what? Free from having to work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, phone constantly going, free from having to literally make call. I grew up, they handed me a book and said, call 3 streets a day. Call 3 streets a day. Cold calling, chasing.
Yeah.
If you're a cold caller, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just not for me. So I had to learn marketing. I had to learn what a funnel was. I had to learn how to construct an offer and then how to articulate that offer. And so, it's really about like, what does fulfill you? What fulfills me are doing these things. I already have things I've wrote down that I'm learning from things you're saying. I do these podcasts, and I have my own podcast as well, but I'm always just like, man, there's another takeaway. The perfect day exercise. I do that every year. Frank Kern, I literally pull it up. Anybody can find it on YouTube. And the perfect day exercise I've done, I don't know, dozens of times. And Mike and Jay were the first ones to tell me about it. They coach with Frank personally. Like, dude, you got to check out this perfect day. And it puts things in perspective, because that's the other thing, is it changes all the time. My perfect day 5 years ago is not my perfect day today, or what I want it to be. I'm living much of my perfect day. Is it every day? No.
Mm-hmm.
No. I'll share with you what my kind of perfect day is in a sense, okay? And that could change, by the way. But right now, I love talking about it because I just did the exercise a few months ago. Is that I want to wake up, maybe in Key West, but it doesn't have to be Key West. It's just somewhere where I can walk into my backyard, put my boat into the water, my center console, go out to the sweet honey hole, find my catch, whatever it is, bring it back home, do my calls, maybe hit the gym, do my calls for the day, and then cook that fresh catch of what I have, and then spend the rest of my time with the people I love. Like, that's my perfect day. It still involves work, but it's on my terms. So, yeah, I love the perfect day, man. It's a great exercise.
You mentioned it involves work, but really it's the fulfillment of your purpose, right? Your worthy goal. I think it's one of the keys to longevity. It's one of the keys to health and wellness, is to have a purpose, to have a worthy goal. And for those people, how many times have you seen somebody who maybe worked and retired, and then within 2 years of retiring, all of a sudden they look like they aged 10 years.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden their health is not as good as it used to be. All of a sudden they get diagnosed with something. Right. And all of a sudden you're like, why did that happen right after they retired, right after they stopped working? I think God made us to have purpose, and it's not just to work hard. It's actually part of what we need to be a contributor to society and to have longevity, is to have a worthy goal, to have purpose. We do a thing actually this Friday. We have an all team meeting once a quarter. So we close out the calendar quarter, January through March. We close it out. We produce all of our investor updates in, like, say, by the 3rd, 4th week of April. We pay out all of our preferred returns to all of our investors. And then we have a full team meeting, our whole team in the office here where I'm at. And one of the things that I talk about at the beginning of that as a CEO is what I call purpose beyond profits. Right?
Love that.
Because what does everybody typically think when they think of, my purpose is to make a lot of money. My purpose is I got to make a lot of money to take care of my family, make a lot of money to buy a house, make a lot of money to buy a second house, buy a boat, buy this, buy that. So if you call it purpose beyond profit, it takes the money off the table, takes the money out of the conversation. And now you start to think about, okay, well, if we didn't have to make money or didn't need money, what would the purpose be? And I start to continue to think about those people who are retired who now they don't need to work, they don't need money, and they don't have a purpose. And all of a sudden they look weathered, they look tired. They're like, wow, how many times a week can I cut the grass? Like nobody wants to do it. How many times even cut the grass? Boring, meaningless. You don't have to do it. But also like, how many times can I go drink Mai Tais and get shit-faced on the beach?
Yeah.
How many times can I, just sleep in and be retired and then try to wonder what I'm going to do with my life? The number of people who are retired and they've put their time in that don't have a purpose, they're bored out of their minds.
Yeah.
People ask them, like Alex, the young guy, asked me today, like, do you think you're going to work forever? I said, yeah, I really do. Because I think it's the key to longevity. I think it's the key to living a longer life is to have some purpose. Yeah. So Al, let's go back to the people that you work with, back to team building. So let's take a second, just describe your organization today. Describe what it is that you do exactly, a little bit about your team, the size of your team. In case somebody wants to join the team, just tell them a little bit more about that. And then we'll talk a little bit more about elite entrepreneurship, but tell us a little bit more about your business.
Sure. So my business now today, I sold my team a few years ago to a few of the agents that were on my team. That was my local team, Stasek Group. We sold, 1,000 homes plus whatever, like in the local Northeast Ohio area. And, listen, to anybody listening to this, that's a real estate agent. Don't, mistake what I'm going to say was, with that selling houses is bad. It's how I made my living for a long time. But I did have a goal of getting out of that sales part, that, heading out, suiting up every day, driving out to appointments. I did it for a long time. I paid my dues, so to speak. Okay. Yeah. So I've been there, and I have a lot of respect for people that do that at a high level. But I wanted to get to a point where I want to show other people what I could do. And here's the good news with that. There's a lot of agents trying to figure it out. They just don't teach you anything in real estate school. Thankfully, I'm actually kind of glad of that, because that gives me an opportunity to fill that gap and show agents how to go from 0 to 50 transactions. Because I've done it, and there's a formula. And by the way, it's not that difficult, but it can be elusive, because everybody has, you can go on YouTube now, and that didn't really exist when I started. I was trying to find stuff. I bought Craig Proctor's stuff, anything I could find online, I was buying it. And everybody has their own take on stuff. But what we do is we help agents get from A to B. We want to specifically work with agents that want to go pro. We're not interested in amateurs. What we found is that amateurs, people that are just maybe halfway in, one toe, they got one toe in the water, they're going to suck a lot of time from you, a lot of energy, right out of your soul. That's kind of how I feel about it. So we're very specific. We want to work with people that want to grow, hungry, humble, and smart. And those are the people that we typically are able to help be successful. Jay said it one day, I'll never forget it. We can't turn losers into winners. We can help winners win bigger and faster. And that's what I love doing.
I like that.
I love working with people they're winners, but they were stuck. They just hadn't learned what they needed to learn yet. That's the only thing missing. And they're open-minded to learning about how to grow their business. And it might not be the way they've been trying, or it might not be the way that they've been taught by the first person that their first broker may have taught them a completely different method. And it's not that the method was wrong. It could be archaic. I can help you get from A to B quicker, And so we have a team. It's a very expensive, payroll that we run. We don't have to do it, by the way. It's not something that's required. But what we put this together and we make this investment monthly is because, frankly, it is our lead magnet. We lead with leverage our $50,000 a month team as yours. I can imagine if I was a new agent, just got my license, and someone said to me, hey, I have a marketing team that'll build you an ad, build the funnel, connect it to your CRM, get the automation all set up. And when that's done, we're going to turn it on. Leads are going to start coming in, and we're going to show you how to actually convert those. We'll teach you the scripts, dialogues, everything that you need. We're also going to help you build your brand. And then that social media thing, here's a confession, dude. I don't like posting on social media. I do it because I have to. If my perfect day does not include Facebook or Instagram, I would delete them all. I'd want to live under a rock. That's just my natural personality. So when I have to come on and do a video, it's not my natural. Like this just doesn't come natural to me. It's actually a fear. Even to this day, I've spoken with 6,000 people on a stage, and I get nervous every damn time. Now I'm not nervous with you because like we know each other and I know that it's going to flow and I love that. But like if I got to go up there, my point is that we coach agents on how to do things that they get stuck with and to make it a little bit easier it's not doing it all for them, but we start out by building everything for them. We'll do it for you. Second step, we do it together. We show you how it's done. So then the third step is they can consider themselves a marketer. They understand how to turn $1 into 10. And that's what we do for real estate agents. That's why we've helped agents triple their business. And I don't know, before EXP, I couldn't tell you that one of the agents that joined my old brokerage, that I turned him into a millionaire. Because if I told you, that'd be a lie. And now we have dozens of people that have never made 7 figures that are making 7 figures. And I had a guy call me yesterday, James. He's like, man, I got this investment. I want to make this investment. And he's invested in some apartments and everything, but this was a different investment, a bit risky. I may actually pull the trigger on it. And he's like, man, I got this $100,000. I want to invest it. Like that's just not a call I ever got from any of my other agents. The guy's got an extra 100,000 laying around ready to invest, And so that makes me like, that was the happiest call ever that I got on my way back from the grocery store. And so, yeah, we want to bring everyone to that level of freedom that you've been able to get, and that's my purpose. That's when it comes right down to it, that nothing makes me more happy than getting that call from someone that didn't have 2 dimes to run together when we met him. And he came down to our mastermind in Key West with probably his last few bucks that he had in his bank account. And he sat among these beasts, guys bigger that sold thousands. I never sold thousands of homes in 1 year. We have people, Veronica Figueroa sold 2,000 homes in 1 year. She's there, right? Like getting them around these big people and then inspiring them and getting them to think bigger, getting around people like you. That brings me joy. I almost said makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm replacing that word with joy. That gives me joy. So that's kind of what we do.
Love it, man. So listen, last question. I asked this of most of our guests, especially people like you that lead big organizations and kind of a leader of a group, or an executive, founder, something like that. Is what do you think are some of the traits, the characteristics of elite entrepreneurs and elite achievers, people that achieve a lot, people that lead groups, build big organizations? What do you think are some of the traits or things that they do within themselves or within their organization that allows them to achieve at such a high level?
Man, I'm smiling right now because, the name of our organization, which I think is Honey Badger Nation. It's right here on my hat. Yeah. And so the whole thing about like what traits make a winner, what traits make a leader, and it's built all around this funny honey badger thing, right? It started out as the video. You may have seen it, the video of the honey badger on YouTube. Yeah. And so we kind of took that concept, and what is a honey badger? He's relentless. Honey badgers are smart. I mean, they're tough. They get bit by cobras, attacked by 3 cougars, and still come out winning. Attacked, literally wrapped up by an anaconda and come out and then eat the anaconda. This is what a honey badger. They're tough. I'll tell you what. To be a real estate investor, to be a top real estate agent in the world of literally millions, or of all these agents and investors out there. Everyone's an investor. Everyone's a real estate agent. You got to be tough. You have to be resilient. You can't quit. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to maybe go broke. I know I did, maybe a couple of times, and you have to keep going. And so the reason they got that name, our organization, is Mike and Jay would give out a Honey Badger Award. This is the young Albie right there. Nice. Yeah, before I could grow a beard. And so, I think it was only about 10 years ago, actually. And so they gave that award out to the person who, got knocked around that year, like they got beat down. They may have lost a bunch of agents. They may have, had to change a brand or they made a brokerage change that didn't work and had to come back. And it's just, they got thrown for a loop and they just keep coming out and they just aren't going to quit. And that tenacity, I think, is what you're going to need to be, at the top anyway, because I don't know anybody at the top who hasn't been knocked around a little bit. And if you don't have the chops to take a few punches, to take a few kicks to the head and keep going.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean that you won't make it. You just probably won't make it to the top. And I think that, when it comes down to traits, you also have to have empathy. You got to have a certain level of empathy. That was the one thing that I had to work on as I matured as not just an adult, but as a business owner and as a leader, is that empathy piece. Because the truth is, man, and I'm actually about to do a podcast on this topic, so I'm giving a little sneak peek, is I learned empathy and I learned how much little I had of it at one point. And then when I started becoming more empathetic toward others, I started discovering I don't have enough empathy for myself. And that was a biggie. And so I needed to forgive myself for working too damn long and, maybe being an asshole to this person or something what I mean? Like I literally had to have a little empathy. I had to actually give myself the permission to celebrate a win. I don't celebrate my wins that often. I hate losing more than I like winning. It sounds so weird and backwards. I actually used to lean into that as a good trait. It's not necessarily a good trait. I mean, it's a neutral trait. It served me where I needed to serve, but I'm a competitor. Dude, I like to compete. Whether it's hockey, tennis, I don't compete in snowboarding, anything like that, but any kind of competition, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to celebrate my wins. Like you give me an award, I wouldn't even put it up. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Let's move on. And so I had to have some empathy for myself and the ability to celebrate my wins, because I really didn't like celebrating the wins, so we'll end on that when I got all emotional on you.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's crazy. So many of those things, nobody's perfect, right? So I'm thinking pretty good at that one. And I used to be good at this one. I got to work on this one, right? You always say you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, man.
You're still evolving, right? You're still
absolutely every day.
So I think the only other thing I would add, you said that so well. I wrote down relentless, tough, smart, never quit, empathy. I wrote all those things down. The last one that kind of sticks out to me that we've talked about is really elite entrepreneurs and people that evolve. Think about where you started, right? You became an agent, then you built a team, then you sold that, then you became somebody that just mentors, recruits, and trains other people to build their own teams. We talked about losing money on the way to making money, and elite entrepreneurs evolve. And often it's in the lessons, in the mistakes, in losing money or fracturing or breaking a relationship that you learn these things like empathy. God, if I had more empathy, I wouldn't have broken that relationship with this person or that person, or man, so glad I don't quit now because I almost quit this other time, or I lost all this money. I just find that elite entrepreneurs take all of this and realize that they're not perfect. They have to have empathy for themselves. They're going to make mistakes. It's part of the process. And then you take those mistakes and think, all right, I'm going to incorporate that into the next season of my life, the next chapter of my life. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as motivation, use it for knowledge, use it for whatever I need to use it for. Whereas other people, man, they might think about being an entrepreneur, think about being an agent, think about being an investor, and they make one mistake and they DQ themselves and they just remove themselves. Phenomenal discussion today, my friend.
So good, man. One of the best I can think of. I can't even think of it. It was great questions. And I can't wait to watch it and see where can we find these episodes.
On our podcast, Accelerated Real Estate Investor. Accelerated Investor is our brand. We find it on, YouTube and Spotify and iTunes and all that. But let me ask you before we go. So for those people, I'm not an agent and I don't coach agents. So you're the guy. If I ever had a realtor agent that wanted to grow their business and get to the next level, I would refer them to you. I'd refer them to Darren, our buddy Darren. Where can people connect with you? How can they connect with you to learn more about your business?
Albie, just my name right there. We don't have it on the screen, but albiestasek.com. There's some really cool things that are just free that you can kind of just click and download and use to start getting some ideas on how to build your business and things of that nature. nature. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's a link to my calendar there that you can jump on a call.
Awesome stuff. Albie, thanks so much for carving out some time today, man. I really
Ryan.
All right.
Thank you for all you do for our community, brother. Appreciate you.